Hello everyone, this is Pooka and welcome to another Pokemon TCG video. We're going to keep looking at brand new decks, brand new cards brought to us by the latest Pokemon TCG expansion, Phantom Forces, and it's time to get into some Mega Pokemon. Now, ever since they've come out, the Mega Pokemon have not been great. We've seen a little bit of usage from Mega Kangaskhan, but beyond that, Mega Pokemon have been downright awful because of the Mega Evolution rule. When you Mega Evolve, your turn ends, and that is a horrendous drawback. You can't afford to just give up a turn to evolve a Pokemon. But Phantom Forces brought us a cool mechanic, Manectric Spirit Link, which says, no, your turn does not end if you have this attached to your Manectric EX when you Mega Evolve. So it is rather annoying that we have to play the Spirit Link just to not lose our turn to evolve our Pokemon, but hey, it's actually worth it, I think, with this Pokemon. Mega Manectric EX is really cool. So it has 210 HP. It's not as much as the other Megas, like Kangaskhan or Venusaur, things like that, but 210 is very relevant. It survives a lot of attacks. It's just a lot of HP. And Turbo Bolt is a really cool attack. For just 2 energy, does 110 damage, and you get to take 2 basic energy from the discard pile and attach them to one of your benched Pokemon. So, Mega Manectric EX, I don't think this will ever be the focus of a deck. It is not going to be a 4-4 Mega Manectric deck and pummel your opponent with Turbo Bolt. No, that's not the kind of Pokemon this is. It is more of a partner. It's a support Pokemon, much like Virizion EX is with Genesect EX using Emerald Slash. It does damage, it gets energy in play, it's a beautiful combo. Mega Manectric, same concept, except it does hit much harder than Emerald Slash. So the challenge is going to be finding the right partner for Mega Manectric EX. I've seen people use Virizion Genesect Mega Manectric as a way to recover energy. I'm going to go the other route. We're going to go with Yveltal EX. So we lost Dark Patch from the rotation. Now we have Turbo Bolt. So Evil Ball, of course, does more damage for how much energy you have. So why not use Turbo Bolt to power up Yveltal EX and do big amounts of damage? Seems pretty cool to me. So Yveltal EX is going to be our partner of choice in this deck. Now, I also want to take a look at the regular Manectric EX. Normally, when you have a Mega Pokemon, the lower stage is pretty bad. Think of like the regular Venusaur EX and all those other ones. Charizard EX, of course, would be the exception to that, but for the most part, the lower stages are much worse than the Megas. Manectric EX is actually pretty solid. Overrun, not the greatest, does 20 and 22 bench Pokemon for a single energy. That's not bad, but Assault Laser, 60 plus 60 if they have a tool attached. That could do 120 for 2, and that's actually really strong. So just want to mention that Manectric EX also pretty powerful in case you can't get the combo to get the Mega Manectric going. Alright, so yes, this whole strategy is going to be Turbo Bolt early on, power up massive Yveltal EXs, and knock stuff out. What else do you want? Alright, now we have all sorts of other support Pokemon in here. I'm going to run a Zekrom. I know you can't see there's a Zekrom in here somewhere, but he is in there. Bolt Strike, just a great non-EX attack. If you can power this up with Turbo Bolt, you can then Bolt Strike a non-EX. Just a decent attacker. This could be good against Safeguard Pokemon. Also have a regular Yveltal, kind of the same concept. Gives you some energy acceleration with Oblivion Wake, but also we can Darkness Blade if need be. We have the other pretty standard Pokemon we see in Yveltal decks these days. We have a Darkrai for the Dark Cloak. We have a Mewtwo just because X-Ball can be used with just a double colorless energy. And then Seismitoad EX is great with Quaking Punch as well. So we have all sorts of options. And then we also have a Jirachi EX. Just a great card. You can Ultra Ball for it, and it's instant supporter. I love that card. I know a lot of people are scared to play this card, but it is very good. It's a bit of a risk, but very high reward a lot of the time. Let's look at the rest of the deck. It's not entirely complicated. We have the 2 Manectric Spirit Link. I don't think we need more than 2 as long as we play Skyla. So we're going to play a couple Skyla as well. With Jirachi, Skyla, and then 2 of the links. I think we can get it out a reasonable amount of the time. 3 Muscle Band just adds on to your attacks, and then just regular supporters, 4 N and 4 Juniper. Gonna have the 2 Colress, the 2 Skyla we already saw, 2 Lysander, and 2 VS Seeker, another great card. Very versatile card. Allows us to get back any of our supporters. Pretty good in my book. We could play 4 Lysander in a game. That's pretty good. One of the downsides of this version is we don't have a lot of space for Hypnotoxic Laser and Verbank CDG, and we could fit it in. Right now I'm just seeing how the deck flows when we just have the 2 Hypnotoxic Lasers, no Verbanks. Instead, we're going to run a lot of energy. We do need a lot of basic energy to take advantage of Turbo Bolt. So we have 7 Darkness and then 3 Lightning, along with the 4 Double Colorless. So we have 14 total energy along with Professor's Letter. So yes, a lot of energy, but I think you kind of need to. 4 Ultra Ball, it gets the energy in the discard pile, really good. Also gets Jirachi, so running lots of Ultra Ball is a good idea. And then we have 2 Energy Switch. I think this is really good in this deck. If you wanted to fit Laser and Verbank, you'd probably cut the 2 Energy Switch for some other stuff, or for those cards, and then you'd cut some other stuff to fit in all the lasers and the Verbanks if you wanted to do that. Energy Switch, really good though after you Turbo Bolt. Since Mega Manectric has a free retreat cost, we can just swap some energy around and then boom, do even more damage. Dowsing Machine seems like a good fit for the A-Spec card. I could see Computer Search instead. I wouldn't mind that by any means. And then we have an Escape Rope and a Switch just for some switching cards in here. And that's it. I mean, the deck isn't entirely complicated. It's just taking advantage of this brand new Mega Manectric EX. So we'll see if we can get him in action. I don't know. It's a great counter to other Yveltal EX. Also great against Lugia EX or any other lightning weak Pokemon. And it's just a great lead-off attacker. It can do really well. It is weak to fighting, however, so things like Landorus EX and Donphan are going to be a big problem, but that's why we're pairing it with Yveltal EX, who resists fighting. Seems like a good combo. Alright, so let's take a look at our Mega Manectric Yveltal deck in action and see, hey, does it work? Because I don't know. I have not tested this at all. We're just throwing out new ideas, seeing what we can work with. That's the fun of having new sets. Alright, so we have the option to start with the Manectric or the Yveltal EX. I will start with the Manectric EX here. Seems like a good idea. This can backfire horribly if we're facing a fighting deck, but we can just retreat if that's the case, or try to find a switching card. Starting with Yveltal EX, I don't really like doing that very much. I would love to get a turn to Mega Manectric and Turbo Bolt, so that's why we're starting off with the Manectric here. So we see a Seismitoad EX and an Yveltal on the bench. So we could see some Quaking Punch pretty soon. Seeing this, I would love to get the Manectric Spirit Link down on the first turn before my opponent has an opportunity to Quaking Punch, because, you know, taking a turn to Mega Evolve is still really bad, and I don't want to do that. We do see Ultra Ball from my opponent, and there we see the Jirachi EX coming into play. And you can just see how powerful Jirachi is. My opponent probably had a really bad hand, and boom, supporter, and there's an N. Right, so now we got some Ultra Balls, got an Escape Rope, got all sorts of stuff. Here is the Hypnotoxic Laser. Going to put me to sleep and poison me. That's going to be pretty annoying. Laser is super duper annoying. The poison damage is really what makes Seismitoad EX so strong. You know, if you only could just Quaking Punch for 30 or 50 every turn, it wouldn't really be that great. It's the laser that really gets you. So here I drew a Dark Energy. We're going to discard that with the Ultra Ball and then get the regular Yveltal into play. If we can start using Oblivion Wing, get some stuff powered up, it seems like it'll be pretty good. So let's go with the Escape Rope, get the poisoned Manectric out of the active spot, and gotta promote my regular Yveltal after this. The other Seismitoad EX comes active. Let's play the N, and did not find the Darkness Energy. That's a bit of a bummer. but oh well, we'll have to work with it. Didn't find the Manectric Spirit Link either. That would have been awesome just to be able to get the turn 2 Mega Manectric and start turbo bolting that Seismitoad for 110 damage. That's really tough to deal with. It seems like Seismitoad really wouldn't be able to deal with that really well. We do see an escape rope. I don't really have an option. I have to promote the Manectric. If I promote Yveltal EX, it has a 2 retreat cost. Quaking Punch traps it. If I get poisoned, I'm going to give up 2 prizes really easily. So there is Hypnotoxic Laser once again. I'm probably going to have to retreat the Manectric on this turn. Overrun, not going to do a whole lot. The Assault Laser, probably won't want to commit to that. If I can find a Darkness Energy next turn, start using Oblivion Wing, get the Yveltal EX powered up. That'll be good. Now, we weren't really able to take advantage of Manectric EX here in the early game. Seismitoad does shut it down if you can't get that Spirit Link going. So that's a bit of a bummer, but hopefully we can get him into play at some point and take advantage. We do see Dowsing Machine, and looks like an N coming out of the discard pile. So we're both going to get fresh hands of 6 once again. That's a decent hand. I got some Darkness Energy. We got the N's to work with. So we have supporters and energy, and those are the things you want against Seismitoad. Pretty simple. All right, so got the Darkness Energy. Clearly going to go on to that Yveltal, and we're going to retreat into the regular Yveltal and just go with the Oblivion Wing. 30 damage, going to get the Darkness out onto the benched Yveltal EX. Notice how I didn't bench the other Yveltal EX. Don't want to give my opponent a target to Lysander out and trap in the active spot. We see a Head Ringer as well. That is a really annoying Pokemon tool. Also a brand new card. Now my attacks are going to cost 1 more. So if I wanted to Y-Cyclone, it would take 4 energy. Otherwise, probably not going to be too useful against Yveltal EX. If I just attach a double colorless, I can Evil Ball anyway. So Head Ringer, it probably would have been more annoying if it went on the Manectric, because then I wouldn't be able to attach the Spirit Link later on, and wouldn't be able to Mega Evolve in 1 turn. So, I don't know. We'll see if the Head Ringer comes into play. Now, we do see the Quaking Punch just hitting the regular Yveltal for 30. I'm going to bench a new Yveltal EX, put a DC right on there, and Oblivion Wing again for 30 damage. But not going to get any energy out of the discard. Don't have any in there. So, alright. We got another Oblivion Wing off. We're setting up this Seismitoad to go down to an Evil Ball eventually. And there's just a Quaking Punch from my opponent. This has kind of been a slow game, but that's what you get when you face a Seismitoad. Quaking Punch slows the game way down. Alright, let's go with the Skyla here. Gonna grab a supporter out of the deck since I don't want to really Juniper this hand away. I don't really need to Jirachi this turn either, so I can just take my time and Skyla for the Chorus and just, keep attaching energy and attacking. What else do we need? That is all we need. There is the Oblivion Wing, and now it's actually in Y-Cyclone range, which is really good, because my opponent has Yveltal EX building on the bench. If I can Y-Cyclone, move an energy to the bench, that'll be beautiful. That'll make it way more difficult for my opponent to Evil Ball my own Yveltal EX for a knockout. So this game has been kind of slow, and the action is going to ramp up really soon. We're going to see lots of one-hit knockouts coming here. Hopefully I can prevent my opponent from getting a one-hit knockout with the use of Y-Cyclone, but it's going to be interesting. So there's the Quaking Punch. Regular Yveltal goes down, and I don't really mind that. Now my opponent has to knock out 3 Pokemon EX still. So we see this all the time. I'm going to give my opponent 1 regular Pokemon, put them at odd prizes, and now I'm not going to bench any more regular Pokemon the rest of the game, because, well, there's no point. I'm just going to use Pokemon EX the rest of the way, force my opponent to take those tough knockouts. Alright, so here we go. Y-Cyclone, 90 damage, getting the knockout and moving the double colorless to the Yveltal EX with the Head Ringer, with the Darkness already on it. You can see I'm kind of spreading my energy out. Don't want to put all the eggs in one basket, because if, a Lysander comes out, could easily get knocked out. and we want to avoid that if possible. Okay, so now I guess my opponent has to start making some decisions. The cool thing here is the active Yveltal EX probably isn't getting knocked out. It's just, it would be a ton of energy, I think. Let's see, maybe another energy, muscle band, laser. That would get me, I think, but then my opponent has to commit all those energy to the active Yveltal EX, and I simply knock his out, and it's probably game over at that point. So, the cool thing about this is, if my opponent wants to Lysander, which he just did, it's a smart play, this was really the best option he had, now I don't get hit by an N, and I get to keep my gigantic hand. So we have all sorts of options to work with. And I have items again, hurrah! Now my opponent did get a knockout there. That was pretty big, but we should be able to respond to this. If I can get Mega Manectric going, if I can find, let's see, I have Professor's Letter for a lightning energy, and then I can Jirachi for Skyla for energy switch. We can Turbo Bolt for the knockout, power up an Yveltal EX on the bench, and that's pretty much it. We have the dual threats going. We're going to just destroy my opponent at that point. He cannot prevent the knockout. So I'm just going to make sure that there's a Skyla left in the deck, and oh no. Doesn't look like Skyla. There are 2 energy switch left. I could gamble if I really, really wanted to. Don't think that's a good idea. That's a bummer. I think my second Skyla is prized. I don't have VS Seeker or Dowsing Machine. Bit of a bummer there, but oh well. At least took a look through the deck and didn't embarrass myself with some kind of silly play. But yeah, now we can Ultra Ball for Jirachi, and I guess instead of the Skyla, we'll just go with the N, and then I'll just laser and knock out the active Yveltal EX. I do have that option. I can end my opponent down to 3 cards. Seems pretty good. Yeah, I guess that's what we're going to have to do. All right, so let's Ultra Ball and grab that Jirachi. Going to discard the other Manectric Spirit Link. Won't need that anymore. And the other Mega Manectric. Don't see myself using that at this point. And going to drop down that Hypnotoxic Laser. That is perfect math. The 30 from the laser in the Verbank will allow me to get the knockout with my own Evil Ball. And you can see my deck is filled with supporters. I still have all 4 Professor Juniper left in my deck. That is crazy. This late in the game, I still have that many Junipers left. Haven't played one, apparently. Wow. Alright, so yes, I will end my opponent down to 3 at this point. And lo and behold, we got another Juniper. I should probably bench the Darkrai here. Gives me some free retreating options and gets another Pokemon down. And there we go. Evil Ball for the knockout. And there's the Skyla. Think how beautiful that turn would have been if I had Turbo Bolted and gotten 2 energy onto that Yveltal EX. I would have just had a monster Yveltal and then a Manectric. You couldn't deal with both. Oh, man. Opportunity missed. But let's see what we can do. My opponent gets a big Chorus off of that N to 3. Now let's turn into 9 cards. The Muscle Band, the Double Chorus, and let's see. Well, my opponent needs a laser to actually get a knockout here. He's 10 short. Evil Ball is doing 160 damage, so we're going to be in decent shape. My opponent's already used 3 Hypnotoxic Lasers and a Dowsing Machine. And yeah, so instead he's going to have to just Enhanced Hammer the active and probably Y Cyclone. And there's a Head Ringer as well. But that's actually pretty devastating. That was a big, big missed opportunity for my opponent. Getting the laser there would have been huge. Now, it's going to be tough for my opponent at this point. If I can manage to get the energy switch next turn and a lightning energy, we can Turbo Bolt for the game. It's going to be my win condition here. But if my opponent doesn't get a knockout here, I should be in good shape anyway. It's going to be really tough for my opponent to win at this point. Just I don't know. Maybe something with Quaking Punch. Maybe regular Yveltal can come out and use Oblivion Wing, set some stuff up. But I'm feeling really good about my spot at this point. You know, we weren't able to take advantage of Mega Manectric early on. Hopefully we can get him going right here. We have the 2 energy switch left. We have Dowsing Machine left. We have all sorts of stuff left in the deck to draw. Got the Juniper. So let's just play out all the cards. Hypnotoxic, Laser. Let's put a Muscle Band on the bench, Yveltal EX, and go for the Juniper. And boom. All right, we got it. There's the Lightning Energy. Go ahead with the Energy Switch onto the active, the Lightning, and the Turbo Bolt. 220 damage. Goodbye, Yveltal EX. And my opponent concedes before I get to take back my 2 energy. Oh, well. It still happened. The attack went through, man. Manectric roasted your Yveltal. So, there you go. Mega Manectric didn't get much work early on, but you can see it can just come out at the end and blast an Yveltal EX for the game. You know, it's really good early on in the middle of the game to get some energy into play. It's really just good at every point of the game. And one of my favorite cards from the set. I think it's really strong, just waiting for the right partner. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. I will certainly have some more for you soon. I am Pooka from the Top Cut, and I'll see you guys next time.